We're on. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. So we are so glad you guys are all here. Brilliant to have you. And others that have microphones in front of them to please push the mic button when you wish to speak. When it turns red, it is live. If it is not red, it is not live. So those mumblings under your breath, Frank Reyes, make sure it's off for those. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our president, I'm sure, is on her way. And it is currently 4:04 p.m. Trustee Reyes, who I just called out from mumbling. Pledge of allegiance, sir.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Pursuant to Board Policy 2350, any person may speak to the Board of Trustees either on an agenda item or on an other that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and before any board action is taken. Comments must be limited to 3 minutes per speaker and 20 minutes on the same or a substantially similar subject, unless the majority of the board votes to extend that time limit. As a matter of policy, members of the board may not discuss or respond to matters raised during public comment unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion. If you have questions about access or require accommodation to participate in the public meeting, please contact the Chancellor's office at 909-388-6902 as far in advance of the board meeting, which has begun, as possible. Are there any public comments?
No, ma'am, no public comments.
Excellent, no public comments. Moving on then. Item A, faculty and staff diversification, presentation on how we use the disaggregated data. So I'd like to turn to the point.
Thank you so much. Today we have two presentations that we would like to present to the Board of Trustees based on their request after the business meeting where we presented on diversity and equity. So today we will discuss faculty and staff diversity, how we use disaggregated data in decision-making towards student success, and then followed by that, we will have a presentation on Justice 40. So with that, I'd like to first pass the meeting over to Vice Chancellor Hannon to do the presentation, faculty and staff diversity.
Thank you. I wanted to start off by saying thank you to the Board of Trustees for allowing us this opportunity to present this information to you. I will be doing the least amount of talking of our wonderful team members at both campuses and at our district office that have put this information together. And so as we queue up the different slides, I will ask that the first presenter will be Dr. Crew and his team to discuss district-wide student success and persistence rates. And then we will ask Crafton Hills and team to come up and discuss their data and their efforts. And then following the San Bernardino Valley College team will also come up. I would also like to recognize the vested groups that have taken time out of their schedules to be present with us, and also our constituency group represented here to come and listen to this information, because it is important that we are sharing our efforts, that everyone understands how we're utilizing data, and we can get that feedback later on to see if there are any things that we can change to improve the gaps that we find. And so without any further hesitation, I will like to call up Dr. Crew to come up and start the presentation.
Okay, so
systems and processes that we go through. And I'm happy to say at the end of the meeting today, it was at 1 o'clock, I was voted most likely to succeed. But but here's why I want to tell you why I was voted that way. So during that time, the entire 5 days, I talked to them about what we do as the district. I talked to them about how during COVID, we furloughed no one. No one got laid off. They were surprised. A lot of districts were surprised by that. There were 72 of us there. I talked to them about how the board works with the chancellor, how I can actually meet you guys and you know my names. I talked to them about how the presidents and everything works together, how the district goes to the colleges, there's no tension there. We talked about the student success efforts and how when we heard about reappropriations, our vice chancellor didn't back down. He said that money's been spent for the students. We're going to go forward with it. So I just went on and on about everything that our leadership is doing, our presidents, our vice chancellors, the board, and that's why that vote came that way. It wasn't anything that I did. I just kept sharing about all the wonderful things that we're doing and how we're unapologetic about moving forward on student success. And that's where that came from. It wasn't me, so I was just happy about it to leave, to know that I was able to share that, and that's the way they felt about our district, that they think we're most likely to succeed. And so as we talk about the data today, I'm gonna go as quickly as I can colleges to really talk about the efforts. So I'm just laying out the data on student success, retention, and just wanna make a note that the data that I'm sharing today is based off the state definitions. I always do it that way. We do have local definitions about success and retention, but any data I put forward will always be based on the state definitions, just so we're consistent. So if you're in different spaces, you're looking at the same data that the state's looking at. There may be reasons for us to look at local definitions, but today, these are all based off the state definitions. And so the first thing we're looking at is our core success rates. We're starting at, I don't think this is gonna work that well. No, it's not gonna show there. So I'm just gonna stand on this side. So we're starting with 2019-20, going up to the previous year. That's will be the 4 time periods that we're looking at. And here we're looking at the percentage of courses passed. So this is the course success rate by our district. And I'll break it down piece by piece. This is our Crafton Hills data. The thing we kind of note is that as we move from prior to COVID to academic year, everyone, the entire system has went down a couple of percentage points. And we were not immune to that effect of COVID. Same thing with Valley College. You know, we kind of went down. And even as a district overall, we went down. The state number for course success rate is about 72%. So we're about 2.8%. Yours has been about 3.0. Keep focusing on what's happening as we get to these years moving from last year to the current year. And we're up about 1.66% in our course success rates. So we're moving back in the right direction. Again, there's a lot of wonderful things our VPIs and presidents will share today about why this number is starting to move back in the other direction. If we go into breaking this down by male and female, and then we'll look at it by race and ethnicity, we see that same pattern. But I do want to talk about something interesting that happened with the male-female comparison. Still that same thing, we're trending downward because of COVID, but looking at the prior year to the year they just passed, we're on that upward trend again. But for the first time, in my recent memory of looking at the data, the course success rate for males is higher than females. So I just started to kind of look back at the literature to see if this is happening in other places, and it is kind of a system-wide thing, and even I looked at international studies and the same phenomenon is going on. And so I left my paper over there, but they pointed out about 6 things that have been happening as far as how we're treating our male students versus females. It had to do with support and expectations, had to do with a technology divide, had to do with the family network and dynamic of what the expectations are for women versus men. So they have a whole laundry list of things that may be explaining this phenomenon. So I thought that was interesting to kind of just bring to our attention. It's not just happening here. It's kind of a global thing that has happened in response to COVID. There's a bit of a delay going on here, so that's. Okay, so if we do the same thing, we're going to follow that same pattern. We can just see linearly there's a drop from pre-COVID to COVID era is what I'm calling it. We see that as we move across all the groups. We have African Americans up first. We have Asian Americans, which have started their rebound. We see from 83%, now we're were 79% the prior year, now it's up to 81%. With Caucasians, they were 74%, but now they're up to 76%. We see Hispanics were at 66% the prior year, but this current year that just passed, they're at 68%, and I'll just keep moving because it's the same pattern, that everyone's starting to rebound with the exception of African Americans have stayed flat at 58% the prior year and where they were this past the year that just ended. Again, I believe our colleges will have a lot to say about that and what they're doing to correct that. So same pattern, everyone kind of starting back on that upward trend. Okay. So one thing I wanted to do was just to kind of bring home that point. What's happening as we move further away from COVID? So I decided to, again, compare our course success rates for 21-22 to 22 that I just explained. We see as a district, I'll just put them all up there. We're up 3% from the prior year. Males jumped up 2.9%. Females have not made that correction yet, but they're still just on par with males. If we look at African Americans, again, I said they were flat, 58% in 21-22. They're still at 58% for 22-23 academic year. And if we just look across the different races or ethnicities, we see everyone's kind of jumping back up with Native Americans jumped up 12%, Pacific Islanders 7%, but those are small populations, so that may have been a 3 or 4 student change. So I just want to make that point there. It was a great number, but small samples. Okay. So that's the story for success rates. We're going to do the exact same thing with persistence. I'm going to try and skip over some of the way the graph is laid out. We're just talking about persistence. Fall to spring persistence. Did you enroll in the fall? Did you return to us in the spring? That's what we're looking at here. We're seeing, again, that prior to COVID, 6.69% for Crafton, went down, jumping up again back in 22-23. Same thing. We went down with Valley's jumping up, and same thing with the district. Now, statewide, the persistence rate is 64%, and we're at 66.6%. So we are better than the state average as far as students returning and persisting. Okay, we do this for males. We didn't quite jump back up, but we are about 2.5% down from where we were prior to COVID. Same kind of pattern for female students. But we're still above the state average of 64%. Actually, it's 62% for males and females at the state level. And that probably has something to do with the way the state divided it by, they didn't look at the gender binary. They allowed more categories within there. So that kind of brings that number down a little bit lower. Okay, if we do it by race and ethnicity, we're seeing African Americans' persistence rate did go down. That climb has not began to start yet. 63% prior, 62% the year before, and at 57, so the decline was still going. Okay. We have Asian Americans remaining flat. The decline did happen. Actually, oddly, went back down, but they've remained stable at 69%. I'm just going to click through and do it that way. We can see that same trend. Everyone went down. We were just trying to get an understanding of where we are moving forward. We see African Americans not rebounded yet. Asian Americans stayed flat. These 1% differences here, 6% for 1% increase for Hispanics, for Native Americans, a 3% increase, and for Pacific Islanders, they've stayed flat. think Stacy's playing with me back here. Are you So the same analysis that was done with the student success, we did it here. I did it here. Looked at the change from prior to COVID to today. We did see an increase in Pacific Islanders as far as persistence of 14%. Native Americans at 4.5%. African Americans were down 6% and 3.28% for whites. That's just looking at overall from the start of COVID to where we are today. But if we're again looking at this comparison of academic year 21-22 to 23, it gives us a sense of where we're headed. District. We're still down 0.26%, very small. Males down 0.8, females stay flat. I think these are African Americans, 5% down comparing this academic year to the prior year. Same thing with whites, down 1%. Hispanic up 1%. Native Americans stay flat, and Pacific Islanders are a 7% increase in their persistence rate. So if we summarize that overall, I can still say that our success rates are on the upward trend. If we're just looking back 2 years compared to this year. And if we're looking at our persistence, we still have some fluctuations going on, but we are ahead of the state average as far as our rebound. So now I'll allow our VPIs to fill in the details on how this all is working out. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Crew. And as Crafton joins us, I just want us limits. So.
We have 30 minutes? Because I'm real talkative, so. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go first. I'm gonna not talk to everything on the slide. I'm gonna kind of talk in general about what's up there. Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Keith Wirtz. I'm the Vice President of Instruction at Crafton, and this is.
Hi.
Sorry about that. So, so Delme's going to talk about student services. I'm going to talk about instruction. And so at Crafton and instruction, we're focusing primarily on 5 areas with our diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And they're around recruitment in the classroom is where we're spending a lot of our energy, and processes, access to disaggregated data, and professional development. And so first with the hiring process, in the last couple of years, we've done a lot of training with the USC Race and Equity Center. And so we've improved our recruiting approach and how we reach out to people to contact them and let them know about Crafton and what we're looking for. And also we use that to help develop an equity question and a rubric when we go through the hiring process that we ask our applicants to fill out. And then we've also implementation of the adverse impact. Those are things that we're still improving, and we're still focused on improving and working on. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the instructional strategies area. We're focusing a lot in the classroom. And in the last year, we did a USC Race and Equity cohort where we had 30 faculty, part-time and full-time, go through a cohort for the entire year. And they specifically focused on teaching faculty how to be color conscious rather than color blind, and how to be aware of one's knowledge, beliefs, and practices, and how those can have outcomes that disadvantage racially minoritized groups. And that's just kind of a quick summary of what they're focusing on. In addition to that, we're providing the faculty with disaggregated data. So they get course success data specific to their classrooms, so they can see if there's disproportionate impact with where that's occurring in their on how to address that. The other component of that is they also get disaggregated roster data. So when they're teaching their class, so for example, we have a new cohort going through this year. They're going to get their class roster data for fall 23. And they can go through and look at how students are doing on assignments and seeing if there's a trend among Hispanic or African American students. And so then the USC faculty on how to improve those outcomes and helping identify where they need to focus on. One of the other things we started doing is we're providing disaggregated course success data and roster data to all faculty going through the evaluation process. And they can choose to include that in their self-evaluation. There's a cultural question that they have to respond to, and we provide that to them with some training. So we're trying to get that data out to everybody. So those are a couple of the ways we're doing that. So next is we're also doing a lot to improve our processes. We're working to incorporate DEI into our course outlines of records and syllabi. We had a leading from the middle group go through training on how to do that campus-wide, and we're continually working on that. We're also updating our program review and outcomes cloud on how to make that better and how to make that analysis more focused. And then one of the things I'm really excited about is we're trying to make, right now the disaggregated data specific to classrooms has to be requested because it's hard to get at. And right now our research office is actually working using Tableau to develop that so instructors can access it on their own by logging into it and just getting their own data. And so we're working on, that's actually been developed, so now we're working on the licensing and how to support that among all of our faculty so we can help get that more accessible to them. And then we're also doing a lot in professional development. This is ongoing and annual. We have annual DEI training. We also we're starting our third cohort for the Association of College and University Educators, which is focuses specifically on strategies in the classroom. And then we have in-service day equity threads, and it's part of our new faculty orientation. And one of the other programs we're really proud about is our One Book, One College. And so the last 3 years we've done Spare Parts, Between the World and Me, and this year we're doing They Called Us Enemy. That's a George Takei graphic novel about the internment camps. And those are really educational and helpful for us. And we go through those as a campus. Sorry, Delmy. There you go.
All right, you'll be my little clicker?
Yep.
Okay.
You want it?
Huh? All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. Oh, that's a little loud. Sorry. Okay, so I'm here to just give a highlight for the work that we're doing in student services. We are currently participated at the Chancellor's Office Streamlining Project. We're one of 15 schools in the state. Where we are, we're being really forward thinking, and we're really helping the state with looking at, could colleges do this, and how could colleges really disaggregate the data within student services? So in academic and student support programs, we are examining our internal data, and we're actually identifying equity gaps to support students who are African American, Latinx, Hispanic, and economically disadvantaged. And so we're breaking down the data, and we're giving the time and space to really analyze the data and have conversations of, okay, this is what's being identified. What do we need to do? Implement interventions. And the cool thing is because we're in the third year, now we're able to see the outcomes. So I'll give you guys a couple of examples of that. Excuse me. So the first 2020 is we focus on being able to identify activities that we could disaggregate the data in counseling, financial aid, veterans, tutoring. So that itself was groundbreaking for us because we had never done that before. So here's an example of what we did. So in financial aid, we looked at the Student Success Completion Grant recipients. And we looked at, okay, how many of our students are receiving this grant? And you'll be able to tell here that the first year we did identify that there was an equity gap for African American students. So we created some interventions. We personally called all the students, we emailed them,
So then on 2021-22, when we ran our data again, we were able to see that we're above 1.0, so there was no more equity gap there. That was a simple intervention of taking the time to really reach out to our students. Excuse me. For Hispanic students, we didn't identify any equity gaps there, but we were able to make sure that our students were getting the service. And for our economically disadvantaged students, you will see a difference from the 2021 to 21-22 cohorts because the state chancellors changed the definition. So don't let those numbers look like we did not serve our disadvantaged students. They changed the definition on us. But you're able to see that because of that definition change, it was a lot more narrowed, and we were able to make sure that we serve our disadvantaged students. We did the same thing here for our transfer center. We looked at our transfer center student workshop participation. And we were able to see that there was a gap for our African American students. And so we did a focus group and started asking, why aren't they coming in? What are we doing? And so we were able to enhance, I should say, and offer our workshops differently too, because we found that some other students wanted to do more online. So we offered more. We were able to reach out to them. And then you notice that the next year, for African American students, we were able to close that equity gap that we identified the first year. Academic counseling, we were able to see that we're pretty much, our equity gaps here were not significant for the students coming in. But what we did find is for the ed plan, okay, why are students not coming in? So these are just some examples, but we were able to do that in all the different departments. And then we're actually throughout the state, Gio and I are often called to present this because we're being trailblazers where we're actually able to disaggregate the data within. And I thought I would put this in there because it's fun. And we work with Valley on this, where we really work together on culture event and conferences. And as a district, we are really proactive on celebrating all the different histories of our, of our cultural histories here. And it's nice that we're able to work, I don't know what happened here, but we're able to work with Valley and we're collaborating to make sure that everybody in the district's able to attend and learn about African American history, Hispanic Heritage Month, API. And we're also working together to make sure that we send students to some cultural conferences like Haku, A2Men, API, and that's some of the interventions we're doing. And so now I'm going to pass it over to our Valley folks.
Thank you very much. Greetings, members of the board, Chancellor Rodriguez, colleagues and students. It's a pleasure to be here to talk with you about what Valley is doing to close achievement gaps in intentionality and serving our students. I'm Dina Humble. I'm the Vice President of Instruction.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Thayer, the Vice President of Student Services.
And Dr. Stanskus, if you can come up as well, you'll be on soon. So we want to start off by first advancing the slide. There we go. We want to talk about intentionality at Valley College through our extensive planning processes, our educational master plan, our student equity plan, and our data-driven decisions. I know there's a lot of information here for you. We wanted to include that for you. If you have any questions later, hopefully there's some answers for you. So we'll go through this fairly quickly. In our student equity plan, we wanted to be intentional about serving our students. Whoops, where are we at? Did I miss one? No. Our student equity plan, Dr. Thayer.
Yes, good afternoon again. Just wanted to talk about intentionality and how we're using the equity plan or educate with our student population. Our African American students in 4 of the 5 areas with the greatest disproportionate impact. And so our work this past year has been, how do we increase success rates for our students, retention? You saw some of the data from Dr. Crew, as well as the getting our students through transfer level math and English, and then making sure we made a commitment to the resource, the human resource, and that's hiring of a full-time Umoja counselor, and we're gonna hire another full-time African-American students. And then in goal 5, we also are looking at our Hispanic, our Latinx students in regards to the transfer process and making sure they're provided support and the appropriate resources to close those disproportionate gaps for our student population.
And we're making these decisions based on data. We're making data-driven decisions and data-driven planning through our Division of Research Planning and Institutional Effectiveness. They've built 10 dashboards over the last year. They're amazing dashboards. They're public dashboards. You can all go in, look at enrollment, persistence, fill rates, disaggregated by race. This is what it looks like on the website. Feel free to check it out. And now we'll move on to student services.
So when we talk about student success, a huge part of that is student engagement. As we all know, our students are coming back to campus, so it's critically important that we provide opportunities for them to be connected. And through the connectivity, we've been working on some intentional, targeted, specific activities to make sure we're addressing identified areas of need. I want to point to an example that was launched this summer. It is a pilot for our men of color. So specifically, we said we identify the area, our men of color are disproportionately impacted, and so creating this program with a collaboration between counseling as well as humanities, offering this class. We had 37 students participate in this intentional project, and which will conclude in the next few weeks. And so what it's doing is it's allowing us to show a model that we're going to continue to seek success. This is through our EOPS program. Keenan Giles is actually here. He was the spearhead of that. Keenan, I know you did a lot of work in this one, to acknowledge you publicly for that. But these are the type of efforts when we have people bring things forward, we want to make sure, one, we can do it, and then we'll review it and look at it as we move forward. Crafton has been a great partner, as Dr. Spencer mentioned, in regards to making sure we collaborate in our activities to engage our students, our underrepresented student populations. We just finished today and yesterday, we had a bridge program. We also had a fast track. We talk about yielding students from students who needed to finish their registration process. So all these things is bringing our students back to campus, getting them registered and enrolled, and keeping them through. That's the retention, right? The retention of our students. So some examples, as you saw, similar is Haku, Amend, we've done our first Lavender graduation. So what this does for our students is create a sense of belonging. And when you create a sense of belonging, you get retention, persistence, and success. So these are some examples. This is not comprehensive, but it is an example of the things that we're doing to make sure our students feel welcome when they come to campus. As we all know, a big part of that is making sure our students are taken care of. And this is just some data around what we've collected this past year around the basic needs for the food and housing and security of our students, serving almost 7,000 students, 47 tons of food. And as you can just see, we're getting students resources so that they can benefit from a CalFresh application. We almost had 400 students who've completed that application. And then, making sure they are able to, for transportation, the numbers are listed. But just an example of when students come to campus, we have to have a holistic approach, and that's what Dr. Humble and Dr. Stancis will get into in a few minutes.
Yes, and we're going to wrap around to instruction. Do you like how I did that? Okay. All right, I'm here all day. The first thing that we want to highlight for you is there's so much going on at Valley College. I want to highlight a few things, and those are our faculty communities of practice. These are funded through our Basic Skills and C program. We've been doing communities of practice in English and math. So far, we've had over 50 faculty participate. They're working on best practices and culturally responsive pedagogy, infusing DEIA into the curriculum and making changes. I want to talk a little bit about the English department intentionality.
This is what they've been working on. They're disaggregating data for transfer level English. They're mentoring students, particularly pairing African American students with other African American students who have been successful in classes. They're collaborating with supplemental instruction. They are partnering with other areas at the college, including our Black Student Union, and actively recruiting African American seniors, high school seniors. They are reviewing curriculum, our course outlines of record. They are decolonizing, if you will, their curriculum by getting rid of old textbooks and adopting new textbooks that are representative and unbiased. They are incorporating new SLOs and actively recruiting universities for faculty members. They're continuing on communities of practice, and they're collaborating college-wide. And they're focused on English 101, which is our major English transfer course, and they're actively promoting our African American literature course. I want to show some data for you, and I'll just give you a moment to just look at that. You can see our success rates. This is for transfer level English for the races of Asian, White, Hispanic, Black, African American from the years of 2016 to 2023. And as you can see, while there is still a prominent achievement gap between races, you can see that every student demographic has increased success rates significantly in the last few years. So this is something, while there's still a gap, we're celebrating. Moving on to math, community of practice. They've been working on curriculum revision, best practices, and online success. Our mathematics community of practice has been going on since 2020. They've been collaborating, creating co-requisite courses, and redeveloping their curriculum and their course outlines of record. You can see some of the things that they've done. They've updated Math 651 support course. They've expanded the scope of the calculus grant that we currently have. And you can see here that the success rates are very high as we move forward. Continuing through, this is transfer level math increasing across all races, okay, from 2016 to 2023. And this is a significant slide. This separates out our Black and African American students and our Hispanic students and shows that historically there has been an achievement gap between our Hispanic students and African American students, and we have closed that in spring of 2023. I want to talk a little bit about curriculum professional development. As Keith mentioned, for Crafton, we've had faculty collaborate with Crafton in a queue, and lots of trainings, including our distance education level 1 training. There's been curriculum changes, old student learning outcomes to new student learning outcomes, and you can see the incorporation of student rights, rights of women, ethnic and religious minorities, and LGBTQ plus populations, amongst others. Now I'd like to hand it over to Dr. John Stanskis.
It's on. Okay. Chancellor Rodriguez, members of the board, I'm the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs for the California Community Colleges. But last month I was the Dean of Science at San Bernardino Valley College when I think you requested this. So I'm here in whatever capacity you'd like. And I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Science Division DEIA journey from 2021 to the present, just to give you a deep dive into one area. This is happening across lots of different ways. Examining existing equity gaps through division meetings that culminated in a division resolution, which is unusual. Divisions don't usually pass resolutions. Directing itself to focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism for the next 5 years. And that included doing a little bit what you heard at Crafton, a one book, one college. We did one book, one division. We all read Culturally Responsive to talk about what it means to be a warm demander, what it means to create community inside and outside of the classroom, what it means to have a syllabus that is welcoming and reflecting and not telling you, here's how you succeed, or you'll fail. And we had division dialogue every month, multiple Zoom meetings. I ran the first year, and then I handed it over to the faculty chairs to have that dialogue about how are we improving the classroom, what structures do we need in place, what systemic needs do we have to support our students. There was course outline of record reform, student support through the STEM Mesa Center, pedagogical dialogue, and really focusing on 3 classes to start, Bio 100, Chem 101, Geography 110, because those serve the most students in the division. And you can just flip through these slides. I will tell you what happened. We discussed that the question that's in the faculty evaluation was like a very important question and that it would be part of the evaluation process. And that it really wasn't a good evaluation if you didn't address how you were doing that in evaluation. We also discussed that we needed all of our full-time faculty to participate in teaching those courses if they meet minimum quals to do so. And we need to make more space for more students to enroll in those courses. And so that has been the trajectory we've gone through. And comparing fall data, what we found is the success rate in biology and chemistry both went up. There was no discernible equity gap measured for biology or geography by doing this work. There is still a gap in achievement in chemistry, but it's smaller. And so those are the kinds of intentional work that we're doing to move ourselves forward in that way. I think the other thing that was revealed is instead of the division originally deciding to move to majors prep, we tried to look at disaggregated data in our majors preparation courses and realized, once the research office told us, you don't have any African American or Black students. You don't have enough to measure. I can't make a graph with 6 students as a database. And that really moved us to needing to look at a significant concern in terms of access, that our African American and Black students are not accessing our science majors preparation courses. And so we're maintaining our focus on entry-level science to affect that, and moving forward, we will on that broader one. We're continuing to look at the structural course outlines of records. We're also dedicated to doing in-reach and outreach through our STEM Mesa Center, coordinating high school students moving into the community college and us trying to go out to the community in that way. And we're building cohorts for STEM majors targeting women of color and health science targeting men of color that we hope to launch in fall 24 in partnership with Mesa, Umoja, Puente, all programs that we currently have on campus and now fall under my role as the Vice Chancellor.
Thank you, Dr. Stanskas. Just really quickly, Valley College has been hiring diverse faculty and staff over the past 2 years. These are the usual places that we advertise for positions, and I wanted to, is that my cane? I want to just point out that Valley College has hired 34 faculty over the last 2 years. 22 of those faculty are diverse faculty. And so that equates to 65% of diverse faculty hiring. We are being intentional about where we advertise and how we outreach for positions. And that's our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for the presentations and for all of the work that went into it. BC Hannon, do you have anything?
Nope, that was, we wanted to get the information to the trustees, and then we are open for questions if there are any follow-up questions before we go into the next presentation.
Are there any questions?
I have a question.
I hear you might have a question.
Do you do questions and comments or just questions?
At this point, it's questions and comments for the board.
From the board, yeah.
However, if the audience has questions, please feel free to email me, and we'll be sure to get your questions answered.
I have a comment. I think that very good presentation. I'm very proud of the work that the San Bernardino Community College District is doing. And a lot of times, even certain groups don't understand that when they go to conferences, that's just the gentleman that was just speaking, it's not an easy process. And we, a lot of times, our staff think that just because we're underserved in certain areas and so forth, that they automatically get to go. And it's our team, it's our board members, it's Diana's team that allows that opportunity. And we take it for granted. We take it for granted because I go to a lot of other community college districts, and they're suffering. Even the participation of our students, they're not as value and of course, when we go to Washington, that's the first thing that they'll ask is we need the input from our students. So I just want to compliment Diana and your team for doing what was said in terms of we're doing the right thing. And I just don't want our own faculty members, our own deans, our own whatever, to take it for granted that you get to go to these conferences. You get to do those things. It's allowed because of the philosophy that we have with Christine's leadership in terms of that area. I think it's important because we hear negative things from different groups, and I think we're here to listen to what they have to say. But I always say, if we compare what we do and how solid we are in terms of our participation, are allowing certain groups to participate, whether it be in conferences, whether it be in retreats, whether it be in, we're there. We're there. I want to compliment you. And someone who will come in and address that, I think we need to look at that very carefully and see what we can do to let them know that statistics clearly indicate we're low in certain things, but overall, I think we're very proud. So I'm very proud that our team is doing well.
I don't have a question, but I'll make a comment. It was a lot of information to process in one sitting, yo. That was a lot of information. And I think we would benefit from chunking it in maybe one school at a time to give us a chance to kind of digest and just to kind of talk about it, because I'm still processing what was said. It would really be helpful to see how the resource allocations align to what was said. So, you know, what is the dollar allocation for Latino students versus African-American students? Is it enough? And then specifically, like, the kind of conversations we should be having here is, are there any policy barriers that we as trustees need to be moving out the way? Are there specific? But when you kind of give us so much information like that, it's kind of hard to process it all. That was, you know, 2 campuses plus the district, and, you know, unless you're a stats person or like Dr. Beer still, I'm still kind of like, all right, well, what did they, like, I heard like there was gaps, but then there's really no gaps because of the 1% and then the 3%, and then, but when I talk to students, they're like, look, I'm having a hard time with this and this. And so, you know, yeah, I don't know what to say other than that. But the dollars, to see how the money is actually being spent and applied for groups, and is it working, is it not? Where do we really need to focus on? Because we do still have disproportionately impacted groups. And so, like, what are we doing? I did read the equity plans. I'm gonna say they're a lot better than they've been in the past. And so I really appreciate the work that's been put in them, because I look at them and they've gotten better. And so you can really see the actions that are aligned and the different things. Crafton, yours is like gotten really, you know, like with the focus on African Americans, it's way more this time than I've seen in the past. Not that it wasn't there before, but the actions are a lot different from the ones that I've read a few years ago. But that's the only thing that I would add, is give us a chance to chunk it and just maybe one school at a time or one group at a time, and then, you know, but you got to guide us to where advocacy work at the state level, whether it be locally with the county, because maybe you need I don't know what you need, but we need to be in a place to where we can make some decisions versus just receive a whole bunch of information and then kind of just look at you like and not have anything. But thank you.
Other comments, questions? Well, I appreciate all the information. Clearly, that was a great deal of work, and that work that you was reflected in the policies that my colleague was referencing, and that's how policies get good, from good information. So thank you very much for all you do to make that happen. We see that there are positive changes, and where there's flat lines or slightly downward changes, you've explained that, and I appreciate that. It makes me feel very confident in the work that you all are doing. So I thank you very much for that. The next item under presentations is Justice Forty, Chancellor.
Yes, thank you. The next presentation will be, as stated, on Justice 40, which is a federal initiative that is designed particularly to help underrepresented communities. And presenting today would be Associate Vice Chancellor, Mr. Angel Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chancellor and members of the board. Appreciate your time. I know that this, for some of you, this is your Friday, so we'll make this quick. We'll get you out the door pretty quickly. But do you want to also recognize some of my colleagues who helped prepare this presentation, who are here, Farah Farzaneh, Shalita Tillman, and also Deanna Crabiel. This initiative, as our Chancellor mentioned, is a federal initiative that is about 3 years old. So not too old, but also something that is already in the works. I know, Trustee Reyes, this has been something that you've been focusing on with your advocacy at HAKU, and so thank you for bringing this information. So let's dive deep just quickly on this. You just heard from the previous presentation about what we're doing to help students succeed. And what this presentation focuses on is money. How competitive can we be to bring in more resources to our colleges, to the community? And Justice 40 is an initiative to bring about a little bit more federal funding to our community. It's not a new grant opportunity. It's not Biden administration has implemented, instructing all federal agencies to say, if you are going to have a grant opportunity, make sure that at least 40% of your grant dollars go to areas like San Bernardino, like the Inland Empire, areas that are disproportionately affected by pollution, that are suffering high poverty rates or low educational rates. So this slide just gives you a little bit of an overview about what Justice 40 is and what it really focuses on. It focuses on climate change. It focuses on clean transit, affordable housing, training, workforce development, clean water infrastructure. And if these bullet points seem familiar, you probably recognize them because there's a lot of alignment currently in place with our programs that are at our campuses, whether it's training around Z&E, whether it's on water technology, whether it's on workforce development. Everyone in this room has had a hand in these programs, and I highlight that Justice 40 is pretty much aligned with what we're doing. So nothing new, but definitely a new opportunity for us to match what we're doing with this new effort at the federal level. So again, Justice 40, I will just oversimplify it and say that it's basically a scoring weight. Whenever we submit a new grant to the federal government, whether it's through the Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, these agencies will take a look at the map that is located to the right and take a look at our area and basically give us a few more points because we are in a disproportionately affected area that is basically a Justice 40 area like ours. It gives us priority. It doesn't guarantee that we will get that grant. It doesn't guarantee that we will be top pick, but it does give us a few more points. So that part we want to take advantage of. So if we zoom in onto that map that you saw earlier, you can see that the area of San Bernardino, the areas of Yucaipa are definitely areas that are within the Justice 40 outlines of what the federal government considers as a disproportionately affected community by pollution and climate change. So, like I said, this is an initiative at the federal government that has been going on since 2021. And it's already taking effect here locally. So to the left, you see what the strategy that we have taken here at the district level, where we're making sure that every grant application that we submit is aligned with a Justice 40 goal. So by doing that, we are making sure that, again, we're competitive, but we want to give you a quick example. To the right, you see how we're implementing that in a recent grant that my colleague, Dr. Ornelas, has been leading with the EDCT to apply for new funding from the Economic Development Administration, essentially to make our workforce training facility bigger at the Del Rosa site. This EDA aligns perfectly with the Justice 40 initiative, and we made sure that that was reflected in the narrative of that grant. And I will ask my colleague to chime in if I miss anything. Again, I'm oversimplifying here, but just want to give you an overview. Again, the other strategy is that we're leveraging that tool. We take a look at that map that is accessible online, and it's called the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. You can all see it. And in essence, we take a look at that tool, and we make sure that that gets embedded again in the grant applications. Another example that we recently worked on was an application to the USDA, the Department of Agriculture. This federal agency oversees funding that basically for us, it means that we can get more funding from them for our arborist training program, the urban and community forestry program that is led through EDCT, but it also impacts Crafton Hills. So this is a grant that we hope to receive, or actually, we did receive it, so congratulations to EDCT for that. And another grant that we're also working on into the future is through the Department of Labor. We're very conscious that the Biden administration is intent on making sure that there's green jobs, clean energy jobs. And so recently we won a grant from the state, and it's called the HRTP. Some of you might be familiar with that. Essentially, it's called the High Roads Training Partnership. And essentially, we got that grant to train more people in the areas of healthcare, logistics, water treatment, and arborist careers. So we're going to be tapping into that state grant, making sure that we can leverage it for federal resources.
Can I just add something
Oh,
here?
please, go ahead.
A comment. I think one of the important pieces that we need to acknowledge and recognize is that San Bernardino Community College is one in the region that has been awarded this grant, but it is a regional effort. So we have collaborated with multiple community colleges, and we were awarded over $20 million. And those funds go directly to support what our Associate Vice Chancellor is discussing, but it also goes into supporting the college and their programs as well.
Thank you for that. Lastly, this last example, again, looking ahead into 2024, there is a grant opportunity through the Department of Education to support HSIs, Hispanic Serving Institutions like ours. So again, we want to make sure that this grant, when we write it, is reflective of the Justice 40 goals to, again, make us competitive. And again, this is all funding, hopefully, knock on wood, everyone's crossing their fingers that we do get these grants. But I think really the big picture of this all is that because of this new initiative at the federal level, it really aligns perfectly with our leadership around sustainability. And I know that our colleague Farah is very passionate, so I'm not going to do justice to her expertise here, but this slide really shows you that we've been doing this kind of work around sustainability, clean energy, around zero net energy sustainability since 2012. And that really set the stage for us to be leaders around sustainability, environmental issues. So now every project that we have on board is designed with eco-friendliness in mind. And so really that is really at the center of Justice 40, but also at what we do here at the district. So with that, I will open it up to questions and definitely defer to Trustee Reyes if I don't know if you had any comments.
Yes, Trustee Reyes.
Okay. Yeah, I've had the pleasure of being part of getting some tremendous grants for our college district over the last 20 years, we've received, for being a small community college, being involved at the federal level and state level, over $200 million. Over $200 million. That helps with programs. It helps with buildings. San Bernardino Valley College would not be where it's at if we had not received a FEMA grant. A lot of times, faculty members, students don't understand how things work, that it takes a lot of effort. We cannot go to Washington, we cannot go to Sacramento and say, we're poor, we're underfunded, therefore, we need to get some funding. It doesn't work that way. This initiative clearly indicates that there's monies available for HSIs, but we haven't received any money. Yet our historically black colleges, HBCUs, and we're part of, have received quite a bit of money because they've been at the table. What we want to do, we want to set up a meeting because we have an organization. It's not just for Hispanic students, it's for all students that are at our college. So we need to all work together, go to Washington, advocate for that, get the monies, let whatever programs that the Angel and whoever is going to, the grant writers, do that. It's very doable. We have been very successful. We're at the point of getting an EDA grant. It didn't happen overnight. It's still not happened, but we're hoping it happens. So when you talk about getting resources for our faculty, for our students, for this, it's really important that we follow up. All we want to do is make sure that we get a fair share. Always understand this. Grants are given based on the demographics of that region. And if that region has a certain amount of whatever the demographic is, we take advantage of that. And that's what we need to do. Justice 40 is exactly that. President Biden and Vice for that, but at this time, we have not received any money in that pot. Our goal is to put money in there, which is about $2 billion, to help the 570 Hispanic serving institutions. Obviously, we're not going to get all that money, and not all of them, but we want to be first. Working with our chancellor, we want to be the vision, a community college of vision, and we have been, and we will continue to do that. So understand that grants are given not because they like us, we qualified based on whatever the initiative is, and this is Justice 40, underserved communities, low income, we can put something together. So we all have to work together. Bottom line, they look clearly on the demographics of that region, the demographics of that state. Then we do that. And then once we get the grant, we bring everybody that is part of that college, of that university, of that particular programs that we're facing. So advantage of that, because the money, we're hoping that we can push the president and vice president in Congress. We talk to our Congress people, our appropriators, to put the money in there. Right now, for this program, there's no money. So our responsibility is to be able to make sure that we put the money in there for Justice 40. That would help everybody, the students, the faculty, the programs, the buildings. So appreciate the colleagues that are very supportive in terms of what we need to do. Ultimately, it helps our students. That's what we want. We're here for our students to be able to have the best buildings so that they can take chemistry, biology, Spanish, whatever major that they want to get into. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Well, thank you very much. I really understand Justice 40 a lot better now. I don't know why I thought it was so complex. You really broke it down, and I appreciate that. And congratulations on the grants you mentioned and on the awards that we've already won. And I know we're going in a great direction. All right, cool. On this agenda, I see no other items, and so I will move for adjournment and let everyone know the next meeting of the board strategies of the board is a strategy session on August 10th at 4 p.m. in this boardroom right here. And the time right now is 5:09. Thank you everyone for being here and for all of your,
Regular meeting the board on August 10th? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Our mistake, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Regular board meeting, business meeting.
Good, well, we'll just talk strategy anyway. All right, why not? So it is now 5:09 and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.